Hello and welcome back to Vashti's Vegan World. Peace, love and sunlight always. I'm Vashti and welcome to my kitchen. I get asked this question a lot, so I'm just going to get it out of the way now. I wear gloves because, if you didn't already know, I bake for customers and it's hygienic. Very simple. So yeah, head over to my Instagram page to see what's on offer. But let's just get right to it. So you're going to need some icing sugar, some butter, some vegetable fat and a little bit of milk and your choice of icing equipment. I use this icing tube just because I feel like it gives me a lot more control, especially over smaller cakes, but feel free to use piping bags if you like. I've washed my strawberries, I've cut them in half and I've put them on some tissue just to dry out. The last thing you want is your strawberries to be moist or wet at all when you're putting them on top of your cake, so just make sure that they're dried. So I'm just going to pour out my icing sugar into a bowl. You are going to need 2 bowls for this, so that's my icing sugar done. And then I'm going to reset my scale. I use Trex and Vitalite for my non-dairy options. Vitalite just tastes so good. And Trex I actually just only came across when I started baking, so I'm usually quite good at measuring with these two. You don't need too much and you definitely want to use an equal amount. So don't worry guys, I'm going to put the ingredients in the comments below so you guys can get to making as well. And depending on what type of cake you have made, you might want to put a little bit of vanilla essence. I put vanilla essence in absolutely everything. So I'm just going to use my electric mixer and I've just done another angle for you just to see. I've started with the smallest amount of icing sugar and I put all the butter in, and once the butter and the vegetable fat is mixed together, I just slowly start adding more and more icing sugar so you can get to it like that. So I use cocoa, that's the brand, and it's a coconut milk. It's the best non-dairy milk in my opinion. I absolutely love it. So that's what I use to bake with, to make meals with also. And you're just going to keep on repeating that process until you've used all of your icing sugar. So just keep adding lumps of icing sugar to your mixture, keep stirring, and if it's starting to get too stiff, just a little bit of milk of your choice. So now here's some icing sugar that I made just before, about an hour ago. I put this one in the fridge because I wanted to be a little bit stiffer. So it's like, here's one I made earlier. That's really what I should have said, but it's too late for that. So you can see the texture of this icing sugar is totally different, and I use this icing sugar in 2 different ways and I'm going to show you now. So the first thing we do with our cake is I'm actually putting a layer of icing sugar in between. So I'm just going to cut my cake in half. Not the greatest at doing this, but you know, I'm making from home, I'm not too long, just started out, so I'm doing the best I can. So I just use a bread knife quite simply. Now I used my stiff icing sugar here just to hold my cake in place when I'm decorating and when it's being moved around in transport towards my customers. I don't want it sliding around in the box, so that's what I use the stiffer one for underneath. It also just gives it a nice extra little layer of sweetness at the bottom of your cake, which is always delicious. And then I simply just get to layer in the middle. Depending on if you're deciding to put jam in the middle or maybe some fresh strawberries in the middle, I've made it like that before. Go crazy with it and do whatever's suitable for you. I'm just going to use my icing sugar in the middle and then I'm going to use my strawberries on the top. So I just put a good generous amount, quite a thick layer on the base, and then I just put a little bit on top because I don't want it to be too moist, too sweet, and too thick either. Yep, sad times indeed, but we just get to it. So now I've cut the hole in the middle of my cake, which is where I'm going to lay my strawberries. I did a nice quick thin layer on the top. I've got some dust, some coloured dust, so I use silver, gold and black depending on what type of cake I'm making. Today I just decided to use silver, and so I just lightly spray my strawberries. It just gives it a nice really glossy finish, and it's just very decorative, so I would definitely advise getting this. So now I'm just going to pop my butter icing into my icing pipe. I'm using a mix between my set icing sugar and my fresh butter icing. I always jump between icing sugar and butter icing. It's the same thing. Butter icing is just my icing sugar mixed with butter. So it is literally the same thing. But anyway, I use a mix just because I prefer the texture. I don't want it to be too runny, but I do want it to be smooth to come out of my pipe tube perfectly for me to do decoration. I am not the best at decorating cakes, but I can get the job done. So this is just the way that I do it, and I've found that it works best for me. But you don't have to do this. You're more than welcome to just make your butter icing and get straight to it. But you can see I've started to layer up the sides, and it's starting to come together quite nicely, if you ask me. Just finishing off with some finishing touches. Try not to overload your cake too much, depending on the design. I don't really ever plan my designs when I'm doing cakes like this with my strawberries on the top. I kind of just go with the flow. Oh, very sweet. But yeah, we are done. And you can see there's a little bit of a gloss. I will give you a little bit of a close-up so you can see it a little bit better. But that is us pretty much done. From this angle, you can definitely see the glitter, and you can just see what a nice finish that does give on the strawberries. Like I said, you don't have to use it. You also don't have to cut in the middle to make your strawberries like all together. You can put them on the edge, you can put them on the sides. There's just so many different things you can do with a Victoria sponge like this. You can put some strawberries in between. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Do send me the pictures of your Victoria sponges, and as usual, subscribe to see the next thing that I'll be baking on my vegan treats. And if you haven't already, you know what to do. Head over to Insta and follow me on Instagram at Vashti's Vegan Treats. Thank you. Peace, love and sunlight. See you soon. Bye.
What you want?